there, I'm Jules. Nice to see you again. The word of the day today is guest. At Disney World, when I worked there, they taught us that every person that comes into the park is a guest. They taught us a lot of other differently called things, like when you're out in the park, you're on stage. And then being in the break room is backstage, among other things. If you'd like to find out why guest is the word of the day, watch some of my other videos and find out. So we are playing As We Know It again. I'm hoping this is the last episode. I'm hoping it doesn't take much longer than this. This game is okay. I really want to finish it. That completionist in me is being real mean right now that I have to finish this game, but that's fine. I'm just upset that Ava hates me. I'll get over it, and I'll be with Jude, and everything will be fine. So let's load this stinking save. Let's do it. I got up and headed out to grab a coffee before work. Things were quiet and tense as Vince continued to prep us for future events and crowd control. Ava was quieter than usual, but if she had concerns, she kept them to herself. Vince looked tired, and the other officers looked as bewildered as the rest of us. I could feel a bit of a shift in Camden, but I couldn't really put it into words. I tried to focus on everything Vince told us to do, and hoped things settled down in some way. People would just have to put their trust in the mayor. Work was over, and I had some time to kill. Ah, shoot, where did I go last? I'm just gonna go to the gym. I feel like I was at the library last. When I walked into the gym, I saw Tabby wasn't alone. She was standing in a pose with her father. He appeared to be teaching her self-defense. Perhaps I could just watch quietly. They didn't seem to mind me observing, so I stuck around until I got bored. That's it. I was hoping they would include me. Feeling tired after all that exertion, I decided to head home and take the longest possible shower that I could. It was getting late and I was tired. Time for bed. What an exciting day. So I actually spoiled it a little bit for myself, and I'm gonna spoil it a little for you. Let me just move my thing here. So right there, it says week 5, day 3. So it's about to be week 5, day 4. The game goes until week 12. So I'm pretty sure that's what I read. So we're gonna speed run this as much as we can. So I'm gonna talk faster, if that's even possible. I already talk fast. I got up and headed out to grab a coffee before work. Things were busier than usual here. The air was noisy with chatter, and I could hear shouting coming from an interrogation room. I went to see what I was assigned, but Vince appeared and pulled me away. He took me to the evidence room and pointed out a plant. You know anything about this? It's a starla weed. People smoke it on the surface to hallucinate. He nodded. That's what we thought. Someone must have smuggled it in, but I'll ask Jude in the greenhouse just in case. With that, he dismissed me. I didn't think they'd grow something like that in the greenhouse. There were safer plants that had similar properties, I think. I got back to work and wondered how someone was able to smuggle something from the surface into Camden. With that large door shut, how could anyone get anything in or out without people knowing? Work was over and I had some time to kill. Icarus. Nothing particularly interesting was going on in Icarus today. There were a few things I could do. I don't want to talk to Sam. I don't care. Water. Cold water was enough for me. I ordered a water and sat at the bar by myself. How fun. What a fun evening. It was getting late and I was tired. Time for bed. Oh my god. No change. Ava still hates me. I got up and headed out to grab a coffee before work. It was just another day on the security force. I did target practice in preparation for my monthly exam. I was starting to get better. Same old, same old. Work was over and I had some time to kill. Library. Ugh. When I walked in the library, I saw Micah pondering a display at the table. Micah's just weird. He's just weird. He's like a robot. Hey, Micah.
Jules, how wonderful to run into you here.
Perhaps you could help me make a decision. Oh, yeah? Do you have any recommendations? I wanted to read something a bit moody, maybe even dark. I glanced over the shelves. Horror novel! I recommend Pinewood Island. Thanks for the assistance. If you ever need a reading suggestion from me, I would be happy to reciprocate. Sure. So what are you in the mood to read? Fantasy. Ah, then I suggest The Final Rhino. Do you come here often? I really wish they were able to expand their selection. Sometimes, though I know what you mean. Perhaps. He cleared his throat and looked down at his feet. I have a small collection of books. You may know this, if you'd like to come and see them one day. Maybe borrow one. They are very precious to me, but I trust you. Oh? That sounds cool. He smiled sheepishly and then cleared his throat again. Excuse me, I should get going. It was nice seeing you. He backed up and almost ran into a shelf. He reached out to steady it, gave me another smile, and walked over to Trevor to borrow the book I had suggested. I guess that wasn't such a bad interaction. Once I'd made my own selection, I headed home. It was getting late and I was tired. Time for bed. Alright, we got this. There wasn't any work to do today, so maybe I could try to see someone. Jude. Ava hates me. I'm not going to play that game. There was such an uneasy tension in the air that I couldn't sit still. The protest had been days ago, but I was still feeling tense from it. Mom had been working late a lot, and this seemed to be another one of those nights. I sat up and rubbed my face roughly. Maybe I should check out the bar. I could either get a drink or drown out my thoughts with music. I wasn't the only one drawn to Icarus tonight. There were lots of faces buried in drinks and dancing sloppily by the jukebox. I headed to the bar. It seemed the least hectic. As soon as I sat down, Sam slapped a water on the bar in front of me, then walked away. She appeared to be busy. She hadn't bothered to ask what I wanted and just given me my usual. My usual is water? I had it once. I had water once. I took a sip and then noticed a shape move and sit beside me. I turned and saw Jude sit beside me and lay his head on the table. Hey. Hey. His voice was muffled and he sounded tired. Is Sam making you help her tonight? I hope not. He leaned up and glanced over in her direction nervously. She didn't notice, so he slumped back down onto the bar. I am so fucking tired. Is your job keeping you busy? No, it's not that. It's nothing. He jerked up and turned to me. I thought you didn't like crowded areas. What brought you here? I didn't know it was so busy. I didn't think it would be so crazy here. Really? It's usually like this in the evenings when there isn't work. I shrugged. Did you know that other cities like this have bands and singers in their bars? Really? Yeah. Camden doesn't have any talent, or anyone willing to share it, though. Can you play any instruments? No. They're rare out here. He scoffed. I thought maybe you might. Me? Yeah. Do you play or sing? I stopped to think. I'd never gotten hold of an instrument, and sure I sang from time to time, but not where anyone might hear me. Finally I shook my head. No, but why would you think so? Jude shrugged and poked at something on the bar. You got a nice voice, is all. He shrugged and pushed away the bar to sit up straight. I need to get some sleep. Later. Oh, okay. He's aloof. He thought I had a nice voice? I'd never heard something like that before. But it was nice. I probably should have thanked him, but he had left so quickly. I went back to looking down into my drink, but I did feel a bit lighter. Oh, shoot. I missed my standings. I pressed skip. I didn't know I was going to skip the standing. Alright. Mom shook me awake and ignored my attempts to hide under a pillow. Jules, 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 wake up, my child. Who says that? Do I have to? Things are so hectic here right now. You can't stay home. What if I get distracted on the way to the meeting? I might get lost or fall down a hole if you aren't here to stop me. She was in a good mood. She laughed as she spoke. Why are you like this in the morning? I should ask you the same thing. I got out of bed and started to get dressed. Mom continued to prance around the room. Why are you in such a good mood? More so than usual, anyway. I had good dreams. She shrugged and began to page through one of her books while she waited for me. It wasn't like her to let anything spoil her fun times, so I shouldn't be surprised. I finished getting ready, and we headed out to the town hall meeting. Mom left me at the entrance to speak to the mayor, and I went to find the coffee. I took a cup that looked fuller than the others and leaned against the wall to watch people come and go before the mayor began to speak. Everyone just looked tired. Vince appeared next to the mayor and whispered something into his ear and then walked away. That seemed to be what he had been waiting for, because he approached the podium to speak. Good morning, Camden. I am excited to remind you of all the upcoming winter festival that will be held next week. I also want to announce that there had been no new reports of the stomach bug. I waited, but he never said anything about the protest. I had expected something? I'm not sure what. I looked around, and there were other people whispering to each other. I couldn't tell if it was about what I was thinking or something else. The town hall meeting was done, and nothing. Not a word. I tried to listen to what everyone was saying around me, but most people seemed more concerned about the upcoming winter festival thing. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, just checking. I started to leave, but everyone knew I was here. Gloria was by the table, gathering unused coffee. Oh, but everyone I knew was here. Micah was studying the bulletin board. Jude was looking around the room nervously. Ava was laughing with some security officers. I could go talk to someone if I wanted to. Jude! I started to approach Jude, but when he noticed, he waved me away. I froze, and he motioned towards the exit. I took a hesitant step, but he nodded, so I left and went to the hall. What's your problem? He's such a weirdo. I stepped out, and after a moment, Jude joined me. Jules? Jude? What? I just gestured around wildly. I almost got into the radio room. He whispered, stepping closer so I could hear him. I think someone noticed, so I backed off. But I was just waiting for another chance. I think I drew too much attention, though. I nodded slowly. Radio room? There's a room off the community center that holds all the radio equipment. I just thought maybe they might have some interesting things laying around that they didn't need, right? I wonder what's in there. I bet they have all kinds of neat gadgets in there, but they would probably notice if something went missing. Right, okay. I just wanted to see how they have their gear set up. I've almost got enough stuff to start getting my own radio working. They're illegal. No one is supposed to have one in case it interferes with Camden's main radio, but it's not a big deal, alright? I want to know what it's like up there. Don't you? See how people are doing? You don't think the mayor has already tried to contact Ofsted with the radio? If he's contacted them, he hasn't shared any news. Their radio is probably down anyway. I just thought if people had some closure, then things would calm down. I shrugged. He was probably right, but he was rubbing his face and didn't seem to want to talk about it anymore. He left to head back to his place. I went back inside. I looked around until I saw Mom standing by the mayor, standing so close. I sighed and took some tentative steps towards her. I didn't want to just leave. Mom, I'm heading back. Mom turned back to me and smiled softly. Of course, I have a bit of work to do. I'll see you tonight by dinner time, okay? Jules, I'm sorry I keep your mother so busy. I hope you know how much of a help she is to me. Uh-huh. Camila, truly, you've helped me in so many ways. Oh, you stop that. I'm too old to blush. He smiled at her, and I was clearly forgotten, so I backed up and made my exit. I had some time to do something before the day was over. Okay, shoot, what did I do before? I think I was at the library? Nothing really interesting. Okay, great. Hanging out with Tabby. Tabby was sitting in the gym, reading a book and taking notes. What you studying? I'm practicing calculus. Calculus? She looked up at me as if I was the dumbest person in the world. Calculus. It's math. Why didn't you just call it math? You know there are different kinds of mathematics, don't you? Different kinds? She sighed and patted the ground to get me to sit beside her. Then she showed me her paper. It was covered in strange symbols and numbers. Holy shit. You didn't study this stuff when you were growing up? No, I was learning other stuff. Survival stuff. Like what? I do know stuff. Like surviving, self-defense, or whatever. How is that math stuff going to help you? It's way more advanced than anything I'd ever needed. You have to know more stuff to do more complicated things, like building geothermal reactors or designing visual devices from scratch, or... I get it. I sat beside her and glanced over her work. Do you want me to teach you? Sure. It could come in handy, so yeah. Okay, Next time you come, I'll bring my old workbooks. Okay. We talked about everything she was learning and other small stuff. It was getting late, so she had to leave. I decided to go home too. Okay, let's see our standing. No change. Incredible. Finally, we're in week 6. Oh God, how am I going to do this? Skip? Whoa! I skipped the whole day. Okay, now we can get through this easily. Because it's all just monotonous stuff. Like, it's the same. So I walked in, I saw Jude sitting alone and toying with a rubber band. He didn't look too happy, and he maybe wanted to be left alone. See if he wants company. I headed over to see if he was in the mood to talk. He looked up at me when I walked over, but still seemed pretty annoyed. My steps slowed, and I started to turn away, but he waved me over. I'm in a bad mood. Why? He shrugged and nodded at the seat across from him. I hesitantly sat down. What do you miss about before? Before? Yeah, before you came down here. He sighed and looked down at his hands. I guess you haven't been down here long enough to miss anything, huh? I miss looking up at the stars. Not that the metal ceilings aren't great, or whatever. Jude tapped his rubber band and smiled up at me. I remember the stars. Remind me to show you something later. It's a surprise. How am I supposed to remind you then? He shrugged, but he was biting his lip to hide a smile. So what's bothering you? What's got you so tense? You don't suddenly miss the surface, do you? No, not the surface exactly. Just when things were simpler, I guess. I nodded and pretended I understood. He sighed and rested his chin in his hand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be such a downer. It's all right. I don't mind. I tried to make conversation, but he didn't seem to want to talk and only gave me 1 or 2 word responses. He did seem to enjoy my company and was sad when I had to leave. Okay, let's see my standing. Cool. No difference. Incredible. Alright, let's skip. Okay, so it skips stuff that I've already done, but if there's anything new, it will show me. That's nice. I walked in and noticed that everyone was looking extra busy. Vince was standing near the assignment bulletin, and when I approached, he spoke to me. The inspection is today, so make sure you look sharp and busy. I nodded. I was meant to do paperwork today anyways. I sat at my desk and started to get everything settled when the door opened. The mayor walked in, and the air changed. I felt tense, but then I saw a familiar smile beside him. Mom was here too. She gave me an overly friendly wave, which I awkwardly returned. There were a few curious glances sent my way, but I tried to ignore them. Just get back to work, Jules. Vince started to take the mayor back to his office to discuss numbers of some kind. I began to fill out the forms again when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned and Mom was smiling at me. How's work going? Don't you need to, I don't know, help the mayor with stuff or something? I'm sure he can manage without me for a few moments. She looked over my shoulder and I fought the weird urge to cover up the paperwork. She was making me nervous. Do you have to? She took a step back, rolling her eyes. So, how have you liked working here? It feels good to protect Camden. It's not the most glamorous job or anything, but it feels good to be part of what protects Camden. Our security force is essential to Camden's ongoing success. I'm glad that you enjoy it, despite some unpleasantness. I hadn't noticed the mayor sneak up on us. Did he have to be so quiet? Camilla, I believe we are done here. Perhaps you'd like to stay behind to spend time with your daughter? No, I'm fine. I mean, I've got work to do. She gave me a quick hug. It's all right. I'll see you later tonight. Rick looked between us and then stiffly patted my shoulder, making my chest tighten. I froze as he awkwardly said goodbye, and then they both walked out. After they were gone, I threw myself into my work so no one would ask me why the mayor was behaving so familiar with me. Okay. Library. Okay. I think I did Trevor last time. Romance. Moth chowder. Oh! I skipped the whole next day. Okay, gym. I walked in and saw Gloria walking slowly along the track. Hey, Gloria. Hey, I didn't know you were into fitness. I am, I guess. It's always a good skill to have. That's good. That's good. We fell quiet, but I got the strong feeling she was waiting for me to continue the conversation. I should say something, but what? don't want to brag about myself or flirt. I gave her a friendly wave and went back to what I had come to do. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm just skipping all over the place. There was a sense of relief in the air now that the inspection was over. I did my work as usual and looked forward to the weekend. After a few hours, Vince called a meeting, which was just him shouting for everyone to turn their heads to face him. We've located a storage area for black market goods in one of the abandoned homes. With them being confiscated, we all need to be on the alert for more theft to replace those goods. We will also be adding patrols, specifically to look over empty housing to hopefully make it harder for the black market sellers to store their goods. Make them store it closer to home, then we can catch them that much easier. Hold on. You're telling me in this tiny little settlement, there's a whole black market? I didn't think there's that many people down here. There's abandoned homes and black markets? With a nod, he ended the meeting, and everyone went back to work. I saw Ava and pulled her aside. Is there a big black market down here? It's not that big, but it exists. Unfortunately, whoever's behind it never gets caught. Drives the mayor and Vince crazy. What would they even sell? Honestly, I'm not sure. Drugs? Stolen goods? You don't really know? Ava shook her head. Only a few people are allowed to deal with the inventory. I'm dying to know what's in it, but Vince has probably already redistributed it or destroyed it. Redistributed it? I know sometimes painkillers are stolen from the clinic. If we find them, we return them there. Ava, I love you! I nodded and Ava was pulled away. We both had to get back to work. Alright, Icarus. Skip. Relax. Mint. Okay, library. Oh, Ava. Hey, Ava. I walked in the library and saw Ava going over the staff favorites shelf. Jules. Hi, Ava. I don't think I've ever bumped into you here. Ava shrugged. I'm not a huge reader. I thought maybe you might be here, though. Me? Well, I've seen you read and stuff. I thought I'd... She motioned towards the books and then rubbed the back of her neck. Are you flirting with me, Ava? I thought you hated me. Never mind. So what are you here to get? Just something to read. Whatever catches my eye. It's not like there's a ton of things to do down here when you're not working. That is true, but Icarus is pretty fun, you know. Is it? That seems like fun if you don't have to get up early the next day. I grabbed the book I had come for, and Ava grabbed a book as well. She hadn't even looked at the cover. Well, guess I'll borrow this one. Entice Me the Romance. Yeah. She moved to check out the book and gave me a wave. Ava left, and I glanced over to see Trevor. He was resting his chin in his hand and seemed to be staring off into space. It almost seemed like he got sad whenever Brian wasn't around, bugging him. He marked down my book without making eye contact, so I left. I sat on my bed and sighed. There were so many things on my mind. This is the next day. Specifically of one person, Jude. I'm not sure when the feelings started to develop. Anytime anyone had seemed a little interesting on the surface, something would happen to ruin it. Things were different now, sure, but maybe I should just forget about it. Or I could go see him. I covered my face and felt torn between several feelings. In the end, I couldn't fight it, so I got up and headed out to try to find Jude. That's fine, I guess. Me and Ava. Star-crossed lovers, it's never gonna happen. It's fine. Okay, I'm over it. I finally found Jude at Icarus. He was face down on a table, alone. Sam was busy at the bar. I would have thought he was asleep, but his arms were outstretched and he was snapping at his rubber band. The bar was starting to get busy. I really wanted to go talk to Jude. I nibbled on my lip a bit. Would it be weird for me to approach him? No. I'd done it before. I took a hesitant step forward, then one back, then another one forward, and Jude raised his head. I froze, but he had seen me. Shit. He leaned up and rolled his shoulders. He watched me expectantly. Oh no, what was I supposed to do? Should I wave? I was taking too long, and he cocked his head slightly to the side, and then waved me over. I walked over and sat in the booth when he motioned me to. Hey, Jules. Hi. He looked at me, his brow raised curiously. Is something wrong? You're acting weird as fuck. I laughed uncomfortably, then cleared my throat. Why was I so nervous? I love you! I don't want to weird him out, or else I'd totally say that. I love you. I don't. I love Ava. Sorry, Jude. I've just got a lot on my mind. I love a drink, tired, sleepy mind. What? Jude blinked and started to slide out of the booth. Let me, give you a drink, okay? I just nodded, not trusting myself to say anything else. He went up to the bar and spoke to Sam. She handed him 2 drinks, and he started to walk back. I took a few deep breaths and told myself to act like I normally would. Here, I got you a sunrise. Is that alright? Yeah, thanks. He handed me the drink, and I took a long sip and hoped the liquor would calm my nerves. So, what's up with you? Oh, nothing really. I'm just tense as hell. I laughed and took another drink. Jude frowned. This must be hard on you. You only got here a few weeks ago and things are so crazy. This isn't what it's normally like. What was it like before? Well, not like this. Everyone seemed content to follow the mayor. Now people are protesting, but being openly ignored and silenced. It's crazy. I nodded. It'll be alright in the end, I think. It'll just take some time and then things will settle back down. That's good. We fell quiet again. I started to think of something to say, but Jude leaned back and averted his gaze. You going to that stupid winter thing tomorrow? Yeah, isn't everyone? Well, I'm going. Yeah? So, maybe I'll see you there? Oh. We could hang out. It might make it less boring. Yeah, we should meet up when we get there. He nodded and grinned. Okay, I'll find you when I get there. We fell into another silence. I felt so damn awkward. I took a deep breath and thought of something to talk about. Music. I've been saving up to buy a CD player. Any idea where I can find music? I've got some stuff I'll loan you, if you promise to take care of it. You've got CDs to spare? Jude shrugged and smiled. I might be a bit of a pack rat. I just can't toss out anything. I might need it for something. That includes CDs. I've got tons of them. Only some of them are any good, though. They had some weird-ass music back in the day. I nodded. I'd stumbled on some weird stuff in the ruins. Jude opened his mouth to say something, but his name was called out across the bar. Jude, come here! This damn thing's busted! Jude sighed and ran a hand through his hair to brush it out of his face a bit. I'll see you tomorrow, okay, Jules? Yeah, I'll see you there, Jude. He nodded and left to see what Sam needed help with. He was getting... Okay, let's see. Woo! 2 hearts with Jude, and I have 1 more heart with Ava! Yeah! Well, I have a crush on Jude now, so Ava's out on the question. But I'm still gonna work on Ava, it's fine. Like, it'll work itself out. It's fine. Oh. I woke up to the sound of Mom singing happily. She was in the bathroom, but the door was open, so I could hear her. I covered my eyes as the memory of what day it was washed over me. Normally, I would be dreading the crowded and awkward event, but Jude would be there. I took a slow breath and tried to fight off the new anxiety that was building. Jules, are you awake? Maybe. Well, get ready. I'm so excited for the festival, aren't you? We've never had anything like this back in Ofsted. Are you planning to spend it with the mayor? Of course, why wouldn't I? We've gotten really close since I became his assistant. You really like him, don't you? Mom shrugged, but I saw that smile I had seen so many times before. Oh, Mom. She sighed and approached me. I sat up and she sat beside me. Darling, why does it make you so uneasy? Rick is a great guy, and he always has been kind to us. I don't know. I'm happy if you're happy. I just gotta get used to it. Mom gave me a quick hug and then went back to getting ready. I know I'm not the only one looking forward to spending the day with someone. What? Jude, you're meeting him there, right? Yeah, so? I stood up and cleared my throat. Anyway, we should really get going. Mom laughed and nodded. When we were both ready, we left and headed to the community center. The chairs had been pushed aside, and the room was decorated with paper and lights. Everything was white with touches of blue. Music played softly, and the tables were lined with refreshments. The room was crowded, and the lights were dimmed. Everything had a glow to it from the neons, and for a moment I was taken aback. It was all quite pretty, and so bizarre. Mom gave my hand a squeeze before moving away, and I was left to my own devices. I looked around and tried to see if I could find Jude. I caught sight of Jude walking along the refreshment table. He seemed to be considering everything that had been set out very carefully. As I walked towards him, he must have sensed me, because he turned. "Jules, look at this." "A what?" "We overplanted strawberries, and I'm just amazed at all of the strawberry things that the cooks were able to make. Strawberry cake, pie, cookies, tarts, pastries, whipped strawberry cream. They even put some in the fucking salad." He pointed at the large bowl that held several leafy vegetables, as well as little red slices of strawberries. Strawberry juice." I laughed. I couldn't help it. He sounded so offended. "You think this is funny, huh?" He smiled at me. "I guess you don't care for strawberries?" Oh, that was me. "I guess you don't care for strawberries?" "No. What would make you think that? I like them, actually. I'm just sick of them now." He laughed and stepped away from the table to stand closer to me. "Want some?" He pulled out a flask and held it out to me. "Sure." I started to take a drink while Jude attempted to warn me. He was too late, and my large swallow of the burning liquid made me cough and stutter. You were only supposed to take a sip." I handed the flask to him and wiped my mouth. I tried to stop coughing. "What is that?" "A really good bourbon. It's not the best, but Sam insisted I try it." He laughed and patted me on the back. He took a sip from the flask and put it back in his pocket. "You all right?" "Yeah, I think." He reached out and wiped my cheek. He was so close. "You want to dance or something?" I nodded, and he led me over to the dance floor. The music was fast, and he danced horribly, but I'm sure I did as well. We laughed about it. Things began to wind down, so I said my goodbyes and looked for Mom before heading home. I found her slow dancing with the mayor. I could only sigh. There was really nothing I could do at this point but wish her well. I left. I was sure I would see her later. Skip. Okay. The gym. The gym was very busy today. It looked like they were getting everyone ready to play a game of some kind. There were people sitting down to watch, and some were setting out nets. I'd never seen any kind of thing like it, and had no idea how to play. Lots of people were starting to filter in, though. Stay and watch, of course. I found a spot to sit down and watch them play the game. It was an interesting match where people ran around kicking a ball into several nets. Things started to get really loud, so I cut out a bit early to avoid the crowds when the game started to wrap up. Alright, let me see my stinking... Okay, so no difference. As soon as I stepped into the security office center, I knew something was different. The mayor was there, of all things. He was speaking with Vince, and a man who was shackled and sitting at Vince's desk. The other officers were pretending to work, but I could tell they were eavesdropping by how quiet things were. I figured I'd do the same, so I took my time checking the board and sitting at my desk. "These aren't serious crimes, but he doesn't stop." "Don't act like I'm not here." "He's in here all the time, at least a few times a month. It's getting ridiculous." "Exile is a serious matter." "And he's got a kid." "Look, I get it. You scared me real good. Since when did we get kicked out for nicking a few groceries?" "Liquors are a luxury item, not something you are entitled to here." "Message received. Let me go and I won't take anything that isn't mine again." "The theft isn't the biggest problem." "I can't help it if people start fights with me. Where are they? Why am I the only one chained up?" "I'm aware of his various crimes. I'll have to think about what to do with him." "We can't keep him locked up here forever." "I know. He isn't contributing if he's here." "But the kid." The mayor fell silent. The prisoner looked between them and licked his lips. He looked like he was trying to think of something to say. "Put him back in his cell for now. I need to think it over." Vince nodded. The prisoner tried to beg for mercy, but was dragged back to the holding cells. His shouts were silenced when the door shut. I started to flip through my reports in earnest when a hand touched my shoulder. "Jules, it's good to see you." I felt my heart drop. I could feel the eyes of everyone here on me right now. "Mr. Mayor." "I have to tell you, working with your mother has been a real pleasure." I nodded. What was I supposed to say? "So..." He grabbed an empty chair and sat beside me. "No. Oh no, go away." "I know you probably overheard all that." He spoke quietly. This time no one would hear unless they got closer. "Yeah." "So, what do you think? I always trust your mother's opinion, but she's busy back in my office. I wonder if you both will think similarly." Should he be given yet another chance, or should we exile him?" His son is too young to keep here alone. Forgive him. He's got a kid. You can't steal his kid from him. That's a little harsh when he has a kid, so you're kicking out him and the kid. I don't know. Forgive him. He said he won't do it again. Let's take him for his word. Forgive him. Maybe with some mercy, we can change this guy. Get to know him and get to the root of everything. He steals alcohol? Maybe he has an addiction problem. We can't just give up on each other. That's kind of you. That was an interesting perspective, Jules. Thank you. He gave me a hearty pat on the shoulder and then left. I stared at the paperwork in front of me, desperate to ignore everyone's stares. Eventually things settled down and I was able to properly focus on work. At the end of the day, I learned that the guy was released with yet another warning. I wasn't sure how many more warnings the man would get, though. Work was over and I had some time to kill. Icarus. Nothing but... Okay. No. Water. Okay, skip ahead. Library. Walked to the library and observed the typical scene of Trevor and Brian at the counter. Trevor pretended to be busy and Brian loitering. I thought about what kind of book to get. Grab an old favorite. I grabbed Entice Me the Romance and brought it up to Trevor. Jules, your mom's book is overdue. What? She needs to bring it back or she'll have to pay a fee. A fee? Books go missing sometimes. A fee helps encourage people to return them when they're done. It's a week overdue. Not a huge deal, really. Just maybe bring it for her next time you stop by. I looked between them. I was starting to feel really irritated. Why were they bothering me about my mom's overdue book anyway? Okay, I'll tell her. I gave up. Who else would keep track of her books but me? What if she lost it or something? That would be bad. Try to bring it back. Okay. It's not like she'll be exiled or anything. It's only a few beads. Brian shrugged. She hardly ever comes in. Just tell her. Otherwise I have to send an official notice, and it's a pain in the ass. Alright, got it. Trevor made a weird grunt noise that I assumed was a good sign. I really hoped Mom hadn't lost that book. I made my way back home. Why hadn't my mom been to the library to return the book? She had been gone a lot of evenings, probably just working late. No way, she's banging the mayor. She's banging the mayor. Next day, okay, I walked in and the whole room was alive. People were running around and Vince was shouting orders over the noise. If I haven't called for you, then go about your usual duties. Ava stood beside him looking worried. I went up to ask about it, but Vince interrupted me. Jules, your assignment is on the board. I could only nod as he walked away. The water was shut off. What? Why? Mechanical error? I gotta help Vince with keeping some people calm. People are pretty upset about the water. That's strange. Ava left to join Vince as they headed out. I tried to focus on my duties, but I couldn't help but worry about the water. After a few hours, though, it was turned back on, and all was well. Work was over. Okay. Jim. Tabby. Tabby was sitting in the corner with her face buried in her arms. She hadn't brought any of her books or toys. Hey! Why does Tabby always look bothered? She's always bothered. Everything all right? I wondered if she was feeling upset about that protest. So, want to sneak into the greenhouse? Really? Her voice was a little shaky, but she probably didn't want me to interrogate her about it. I was going to sneak in. Want to come? Tabby looked up at me. Her eyes were puffy and red. She nodded and stood up. When she thought I wasn't looking, she rubbed her eyes. I led her towards a side entrance to the greenhouse that tended to be left unlocked. I had noticed Brian enter and leave, but he never seemed to remember to lock it. We crept through the hallways like thieves, despite having done nothing illegal yet. When we got to the unlocked door, I glanced around until I knew we were alone. What do we do if we get caught? We run, or pretend to be very lost? I think we'll be fine as long as our pockets aren't full of stolen produce. She smirked and nodded, so I opened the door and peeked inside. I led Tabby inside the greenhouse, and we managed to avoid being seen by anyone. We walked around aimlessly, but somehow managed not to get lost. Then we made a quick exit before we were caught and headed back to the gym. That was awesome, right? Thanks, Jules. I'm gonna head home before Dad starts to worry about me. Want me to walk you there? No, I'm not a baby. All right, just be safe. Is it really dangerous on the surface? Her face looked sad, and she was searching my face for answers. Her whole tone had changed. It's dangerous, but you don't have to worry about that. You live in Camden. I guess. All right, see you later. Okay. I grabbed the stuff I had left behind and went home as well. Okay, whole day. Ava swaggered around one of the pool tables and smiled when our eyes met. Ava! She mouthed, "Watch this," and leaned over to take a shot. She smacked the ball and it hit the corner and nothing else. I could hear her curse from here. I covered my mouth so she wouldn't see me laughing. She handed off her pool stick and headed in my direction. I'm usually a lot better at that. It was still very impressive. That I missed? It was a very skilled miss. She laughed and sat beside me. I'll teach you to play sometime. It's a lot of fun. Sure. I'd like to learn. Might be fun. I'm a great teacher, so you'll get the hang of it in no time. Should I buy you a drink? No, I can't stay. She frowned and sighed. I was just on a break. I gotta get back to work soon. Really? This late? I'm doing some extra guard duty stuff. She tapped her knees and glanced behind me at some other security officers. They waved her over. Guess you gotta go. Yeah, work. Need to keep this place safe. She smiled and hopped to her feet, then chased after the others. Literally no change with Tabby. I've hung out with her so much. To Jude. That's normal. Oh, okay. Just as I finished getting dressed, there was a buzz letting me know someone was at the door. I opened it and saw Jude. Hey. I stepped aside to let him in, slightly relieved that he didn't have any contraband on him. At least I didn't see any. I was just, I cleared my throat, suddenly embarrassed to admit that I had been planning to seek him out when he beat me to it. I tried to cover my drop in conversation, but Jude didn't seem to notice. They're showing a movie today. You haven't seen one, have you? Movie? I knew what they were, I just hadn't realized Camden had access to such luxuries. Yeah, they got 3 films intact enough to show. Wanna go? Wow, 3 of them? What are they like? An old romance with a big ship, a space battle with aliens, some scary monsters, scary nonsense with clowns. Any of those sound particularly interesting to you? I thought about it, but Jude's description didn't give me a whole lot to go on. Jude poked around at the stuff on my kitchen counter and said nothing. Maybe he was still a bit sleepy. Which movie sounded the most interesting? Scary clowns! I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Scary? I love scary. We won't know what they're showing till we go, so wanna? Yeah, of course. Jude tucked his hands in his pockets and grinned at me. He turned as to leave, so I followed him. A lot of people were heading toward the community center, and when we got there, I saw that the lights had been dimmed, and a large white sheet had been hung up on a screen. As a screen. Jude placed a hand on my lower back and led me towards the furthest corner of the place. It wasn't as easy to see the screen, but there were less people. I know you get anxious when there's a lot of people close by. You noticed? During the town hall meetings, you always sit at the very back. He shrugged and sat down, so I sat beside him. He had noticed. It wasn't a big fear or anything. I was just more comfortable with a bit more space. I still wasn't used to so many people being so close to me all the time. I glanced around, and then an announcement was made that the lights would soon be put out for the movie. Jude nudged me and placed something small and round into my hand. Strawberries. Shh. I bit my lip and tried not to chuckle too loudly. Of course he had snuck produce into the community center for this. I shook my head but nibbled on the tart red fruit. The lights grew darker and the screen lit up. A scratching noise exploded out of the speakers and some warped text displayed on the sheet. The movie was loud and confusing, but fun to watch. I was glad I had sat in the back with Jude. He had brought pockets full of fruit for us to snack on. Things started to quiet down, and 2 of the aliens were talking about something seriously. The audio and visual had been compromised somewhat, but it could still be made out if I focused. I tried to focus, but a hand touched my chin. I turned to see Jude. His hand moved from my chin to my lower lip. He brushed against my skin, then showed me the small strawberry leaf that had been on my face. For a moment, I forgot the movie, despite looking back towards it as Jude did. Jude always seemed so relaxed, yet he had marks on his wrist from the rubber bands, and I knew he was prone to drinking when he was upset. Hopefully, I could learn more about him. The movie was strange, and I found it hard to pay attention to once I got distracted from the story. Jude seemed to be enjoying it, though, and there were parts that made him laugh. When it was over, the lights returned, and Jude nudged me. So? What? Your thoughts? Come on. Oh, he wanted to know what I thought about the movie. It was great! It was amazing! All the explosions. Jude frowned. I think he picked up on my lie. I forced a smile, but he didn't say anything. We got up and entered the river of people who were exiting the community center. It was late, so I headed home while giving Jude a friendly wave. He watched me for a moment, making me a little nervous. When they finally seemed to be done studying me, he turned and went our separate ways. That was weird. Okay, next day. Mom woke me up, yet for another important community meeting thing. Before I could protest, she handed me a cup of coffee and moved so that I could attempt to wake up. Last week was the Winter Festival, and I had spent it with Jude. I smiled into the coffee, but tried to focus on waking up and getting ready. I glanced up at Mom, who was happily humming. I now knew without a doubt there was no stopping whatever was going on between my mom and the mayor, so I just mentally wished her luck. Ever since coming here, we had only seemed to grow further and further apart, but that might be a good thing. I didn't need to fret over her here as I used to. We arrived at the community center, and I couldn't help but overhear a lot of talk about the recent water issues. It had only occurred once, and hadn't lasted long, but it was enough to put people into a panic. Mom left to assist the mayor, so I started to look around the room and saw the familiar faces. Iris! Iris waved me over the moment I made eye contact. Well, look at you with your cup of coffee and everything. You've just got a cute little thing going on is all I'm saying, honey. Why am I so mean to Iris? She does not deserve it. I wasn't sure how to respond, so I just smiled and shrugged. Let me tell you, I hope that water nonsense doesn't happen again. Yeah, but at least it didn't last long. And thank the shade for that. Now look quick. She nudged me and motioned towards a man several feet away. That's my next target. What you think, hun? Target? That's an interesting way to refer to some guy you plan to hit on. I smirked at her, and she tried not to smile, but shook her finger at me. I rolled my eyes. You haven't been single long enough. It's a battle, on my honor. I just nodded and let her continue. She spoke for a while on the ways being single was like war until the mayor approached the stage. Then we sat and waited for the mayor to begin. The mayor tapped on the mic gently, then cleared his throat to speak. It was a lot of the same. First he spoke about the Winter Festival. He'd gotten a lot of good feedback on it, and was looking forward to more events like it in the future. He was excited to go over upcoming news, schedule changes, and mention the various lots that could use donations. Cloth, specifically. Not once did he speak of the disaster on the surface. It had been weeks. Did we still have no news? He didn't mention the water issues either. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal after all? Once it was over, he left the stage and joined my mother. As I left, I heard some people muttering about the water and the surface, but mostly people seemed to be talking about the Winter Festival. I had to... Okay. Icarus. Okay, skip. No. Water. Okay, library. Okay, I walked in the library and caught sight of Jude walking down an aisle while paging through a book. I could probably go say hi if I wanted to. Yes? I took a step towards the aisle Jude had walked down. Stopped, then took another step. My heart was beating rapidly and I felt unreasonably anxious. It was only Jude. My nerve was fading when he reappeared and stopped in front of me. Jules? Oh, hey. I saw you, so reading anything interesting? I tried to pretend my voice didn't crack and cleared my throat a bit. I was too old for the shit. Not really. He put his hand in his pocket and glanced around at the floor. I've been trying to get this weird bit of old tech working, and I can't seem to get it running. Oh yeah? What is it? Well, it was a computer, or at least part of one. Some of the bits are melted. I thought maybe I could see if any of it was worth salvaging. Computer? I've read about those. Yeah, I'd really like to figure out how they work. I wish we had more technical manuals here. What do you think we could do with one? Jude shrugged. So, I mean, if you want, I could show you sometime. A computer, I mean. I'd love that. I'm excited to see all your weird gadgets and old tech parts. Really? A lot of people think it's not worth the time. None of it ever works. At least, how it's supposed to. Now I shrugged. Yeah, but maybe we'll learn how to start building some of that stuff again. Wouldn't it be amazing? He smiled at me, and we just stood there for a moment. And then Trevor shouted at us, "Pick a book and get out. This isn't the community center." I'm gonna kill this guy. Jude rolled his eyes when we said our goodbyes. He walked out, giving me a final little wave. Oh, okay. I grabbed no alternative remedy and brought it to the ever-grumpy Trevor. Skip! I sat at the desk filing out all the paperwork. It was to the point now that I did it without really thinking about it. I just had to transfer lots of notes and reports into neat little files. It was tedious, but it was helpful when we had to look something up. At least it would be if we ever had to do it. I never had to go back and look through the old forms, but if I did, I'd probably appreciate the effort. I sighed and sipped on a cup of coffee. One of the perks of working here was free coffee. Back to work. Gym. Hang out, Tabby. I sat next to Tabby and she handed me an old workbook. I brought some paper so you could practice. Just read the directions and I'll help you if you get stuck. Geometry? Geometry. You'll learn some basic formulas concerning shapes. Wow, okay. I went through the very tiring process of wrapping my head around this fancy math. I wasn't completely sure how this would ever help me, unless I needed to build giant triangles or measure shadows. I was starting to think that Tabby was really lonely. I never saw her with kids her own age, and there were a few here. In fact, I never saw her with anyone except her dad. It made me think of me and Mom. On the surface, I had really kept my distance. Other people were dangerous. She's growing up in this safe place, though. I wanted to ask her what was up, and last time I saw her in the gym, she looked really upset. But I didn't want to bring it up in case it upset her again. Eventually, she'll tell me if she wants to. No point in trying to force her. I wasn't her big sister or mom. After a while, Tabby left to go home, so I went back home too. Maybe I could ask Mom what she thought about it later. Skip. Okay, Icarus. I walked in feeling a little more exhausted than usual. Then I glanced around and saw something that made me even more tired. Mom was here with the mayor. They hadn't seen me yet. Was this something I really wanted to deal with right now? Honestly, let me just spy on them. I sat near them, but tried to keep out of sight. If Mom saw me, she would call me over. They began to discuss something, some kind of trouble in the maintenance room. Mom was trying to reassure the mayor that it wasn't as big of a problem as he was making it out to be. Then the conversation turned more casual, and I got bored. I snuck out as carefully as I could. They hadn't noticed me, thankfully. Okay, so I walked into work and saw Tabby following her dad around. I checked my assignment for the day, but as I did, Vince called a general meeting. He stood towards the center of the room and spoke in a loud, booming voice. You all know Tabby. She's here for a career education, so everyone welcome this future officer. Tabby started to squirm and glowered at her dad. Dad! I'm just messing with you, Tabby Cat. You can do any job you want to. There were good-natured chuckles all around the room, and Tabby seemed placated, but still annoyed. Whatever. Okay, everyone, get back to work. With that, everyone returned to what they were doing. Though as I got ready for my daily job, I couldn't help but watch Tabby and Vince interact. Watching them sometimes gave me a cold feeling in my gut that I assumed was a tiny bit of jealousy. I shouldn't be that way, though. I had Mom, and poor Tabby only had her dad. It wasn't like she was getting something I wasn't. Maybe I just missed the father I never knew. I sighed, feeling bad about my thoughts and frustrated that I was even thinking them. I rubbed the bridge of my nose and forced my feet to move. Working would get my mind off of those things. There was always piles of mind-numbing paperwork to do, and that sounded perfect right now. Work was over, and I had some time to kill. Library. Okay, skip. Check out a book. Skip. Comedy. Skip. Gym. When I walked in, I saw Mom and Rick studying some of the exercise equipment. Ugh. Jules! Mom waved at me, and the mayor shot me a friendly nod. Hey, Mom. Are you guys working? Yeah, we were assessing the quality of our fitness facilities. She could barely keep a straight face as she spoke. I don't sound like that when I speak. Mom shrugged in that playful way I'd seen her do hundreds of times. Mind if I take a moment with my daughter? Of course not. I swear that man will micromanage his own funeral. I laughed, but she said it with an affectionate smile, which put me on a bit of an edge. I'm glad you're having fun at your job. She waved her hand. Oh, it's nothing. All I have to do is keep him from working too much. When he does that, he gets forgetful, same as anyone. I guess I'll let you get back to him. Mom gave me a big hug and kissed me on the top of my head. All right, you have fun. I gave it a feeble attempt, but I couldn't focus on exercise when my mom was here working, or flirting with the mayor. I gave her a wave goodbye and went home. Skip. Okay, I had a free day, so I decided to see if I could find Jude anywhere. Dang, they don't even ask me who I want to hang out with anymore. I searched a few places, but I didn't see him anywhere. When I checked the bar, I had asked Sam, and she told me to go to the greenhouses. I'd been to the greenhouse briefly before, but it had been a while. I opened the doors and was hit by the humidity. I grimaced and glanced around. I cracked open the door and heard a blast of old rock music. I stepped inside and was hit with another blast of wet heat. It was like walking through invisible water. Was it always like this? I didn't have to search hard. I only had to follow the colorful string of curses coming from a corner of the greenhouse. Jude? There was a bang against metal and then another loud curse. Jules, what are you doing here? He came up from behind several pipes and a panel that had been removed, covered in more grime than usual. He wiped sweat off his forehead, which only smeared the oil there. I was looking for you. I didn't realize you'd be busy. I could go. No, I just finished, I think. The ventilation system went out. I could have waited for maintenance, but didn't feel like it. That's why it's so awful in here? He nodded and grabbed a rag that was hanging on a pipe. He wiped his hands, but was missing out on a fairly large smear of oil on his cheek. Here, I motioned toward the grit on his face, and he handed me the rag. I gently wiped it off for him. I need a shower. I nodded. He did. Do you know how to fix everything in here? Jude smirked and took the rag from me. He tossed it back at the pipe, but it fell and he left it on the floor. He rolled his shoulders as he spoke. Just about, and it's just faster if I do things myself. I guess I'll let you get home so you can shower and stuff. Jude looked down at his hands and clothes. Yeah, I'll see you later. I left him with an awkward wave and made my way out and back into the halls. Skip. I rolled over and saw Mom already up and dressed. She sat at the table and was reading over something. Is it time to go already? Not quite, but soon. What are you reading? Just some notes, nothing that important. I'm just trying to wake myself up. She turned and gave me a small smile. Something was bothering her, but I knew if I asked she would deny it. I got out of bed and got ready. I sat with her and we ate some fruit before leaving. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat towards the back of the room. I kept an eye out for Jude and tried to keep the seat beside me open, just in case. The mayor walked up onto the stage and I leaned back in my chair. Let the fancy speeches, edited by my mother, begin. Before he could step up to the podium, however, everything went black. I sat up and looked around. Everyone began to speak, shout, and question. Why had the lights gone off? I heard a few voices shout to remain seated, so I did, but the speakers crackled, and I expected the intercom to tell us what happened. I didn't recognize the voice that spoke out of the speakers, though. What must we do to make the mayor listen? I have family up there. I know I'm not the only one. Tell the mayor to open the doors. Help us make him listen. We refuse to live in luxury while our families starve and suffer on the surface. Join us or put your own comfort before the lives of children. Your choice. I knew people were upset about the storm, but doing this? I felt someone sit beside me in the dark. My eyes were starting to adjust so I could just make out that it was Jude. Hey. Jude, hey, can you believe this? He scoffed. They'd better have only cut power to this room. I swear, I don't want to check on the greenhouse, but it's not like Brian will. Could they really have shut it all down everywhere? Not easily, and trust me when I say that. I bit my lip to keep from grinning. Come on, the mayor's office? You haven't gotten in there. Jude leaned back and crossed his arms. It was dark, but I could sense the smirk on his face. No, and you can't prove otherwise. Sam would kill you if she knew. Yeah. So do you think this will be over soon? I was hoping to get a nap in today. I don't know. It's dark here. I suppose you could try to sleep now if you wanted. I'd rather talk to you than sleep. He leaned his leg against mine casually and whispered softly. Take that as a compliment. I love to sleep. He chuckled and I laughed. I'd been pretty tense when the lights had gone out, but now I almost wish they wouldn't come back on. Jude sat up and then rested his arm on the back of my chair. So close. So you think you'll check on the greenhouse after this? Yeah, gotta make sure nothing was reset and nothing burned out. Well, I hope it's all fine. Me too. Some of those plants can be pretty delicate. The lights suddenly blinked on. I had to rub my eyes, but ultimately was relieved. When I could see again, I saw the mayor walk back up to the stage. Someone in a security uniform was speaking to him quietly while he nodded. Then he faced the room and finally a quiet fell on the crowd. What would he say now? The one who illegally hijacked the intercom system has been caught and will be dealt with, as will all who continue to disrupt the peace in Camden. I was a bit startled by the threat. I glanced around and I wasn't the only one. He seemed to pick up on the unease because I saw him take a breath. The safety of every one of you is my top priority and always will be. Anyone who threatens you, my citizens, will have to answer to me. We will not be threatened or put in danger because of some outliers and their dangerous lies. He gripped the podium and glanced briefly at my mother. She nodded. I have made several attempts to contact the surface and to learn of the town's fate. They had all been met with silence. I had originally planned to discuss this with interested parties individually and privately, but it would seem I have no choice. I have a plan in place to check on things, but it must be done carefully. There are reports of Sandmen gangs moving into the area, and we have to be safe. I felt my chest tighten. Sandmen. Close. That made things so much more complicated, but it made sense. They would want to take advantage of the wreckage to see what they could extract from it. Who they could extract from it. It was brief, but I caught my mother and the mayor exchange looks. It dawned on me that she had known. Of course she would know all this insider information. It shocked me a bit that she would keep it from me. I tried not to feel a bit betrayed, but ever since we came down here, we had grown apart. It was never clearer to me now than it was now. I said a hasty goodbye to Jude and got out of there. I needed to go home and think. I crawled into bed and hugged a book to my chest. My mind was buzzing, and I considered trying to read and forget everything. Things were starting to change. I couldn't be sure how, but with the unrest in Camden and my mother's close ties to the mayor, everything was getting increasingly complicated. I supported what the mayor had done. It was the best choice for all of Camden. But not everyone saw it that way, and with Sandmen thrown into the mix, things might start to get dangerous. I groaned and covered my face. For my own sake, I had to try to take all of this slowly, just one small thing at a time. Right now, I needed to try to calm down. Everything else could wait. I didn't have the energy to leave, so I sat around until I was finally able to concentrate on the book in my hand. Okay. Really, nothing's changed after all that. Alright. Okay, well, so we're about to be on week 9. This was week 8, day 7. So week 9, so that means I should be able to finish this game the next episode. I'm ready to finish this game. I was trying really hard to get through it quickly, and that was not gonna happen. So this is getting crazy, and I don't know. I don't think I'm in the wrong. I mean, I think that the person that hijacked the mic, it's like, we're living in luxury while these people, it's like, you're not being forced to live in luxury. You can go and live up there on the surface. Like, you were picked to live here. This isn't just a community where everyone can live, obviously. There's like an application process. If you don't like living in luxury while your family is living up on the surface, you can go live with your family up there. No one's forcing you to stay here. That's kind of crazy. Like, nobody is entitled to be living down here. That's crazy. I really wish that Ava was on my side, but I'm glad I have one heart back. I should have 2 hearts with Ava, but it's fine. So I guess the game decided I'm gonna be with Jude. It's fine. He's fine. It's fine. Ava just is cool, too. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much for playing with me, and I will see you later.